Good evening, televiewers of DMR TV. You are all welcome to another edition of Marriage in God's Plan. Previously, we have been dealing with treating the marriage preparation guide, which is a document put forward by PECFIRE, the Provincial Episcopal Commission for the Family and Youth Apostolate for the preparation of couples aspiring for the sacrament of holy matrimony. Today we shall be dwelling on its chapter 3 of part 1, which talks about the fall. It is either the fall of Adam or the fall of man, which is a Christian term used to describe the transition of the first man and woman from the state of innocent obedience to God to the state of guilty disobedience. This doctrine is found in Genesis from chapter 1 to chapter 3, the fall, which talks about the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, disobeying God by eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so I have with me in the studio our couple from St. Teresa of the Child Jesus Parish in Mekongi, Mr. David Nanji Nasari on my left and Mrs. Nanji Melvis on my right. All of them are volunteers of the Family Life Service of the Diocese of Boya. You are all welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
And myself, for presentation, I am Mary Ann Chinmolo. You are welcome once more to this program. Let us start dwelling straight to the point. We are talking today about the fall, the original sin. Let me find out from you, Mr. David, on my left, what was man's state before the sin?
Okay, thank you, Mom. First of all, appreciate our televiewers for being there, Siri on Divine Mercy Radio and Television, and the program on air, Marriage in God's Plan. The state of man before the fall was very, very important because God created man with a purpose, and this man was holy. He was very, very holy. It means that he was all good. And again, man was innocent. There was no sin attached to man. That is when God created our first fathers and mother, Adam and Eve. They were all holy. Again, man was free of sin. He did not have any sin that he committed. He was again free of death. It means that man was to live like that in the earth forever. He was not to die. Again, he was free of pain. But we will realize that after the sin that man committed, he was now full of pains because he had to toil, he has to pass certain difficulties. But when God created man, man was totally free of pain. He was not to die. He was holy. He was innocent. He did not know anything all about these difficulties that we encounter today. That was the nature that God created man. That is our first father and mother, Adam and Eve.
And so we call that the state of original justice and holiness. Let me come to you on my right, Madam Melvis. How does this state differ after the sin?
Okay, thank you, Mom. It is really a pleasure for me to be on Divine Mercy Radio and Television to discuss the state of man after the fall, after the first sin, the sin of our forefathers, the sin committed by Adam and Eve. When God created Adam and Eve, he made them in his image. they had the unique image of God in its fullness. Now, when they sinned, God got angry, and we know he punished them. And the first punishment is he cursed the soil. When God cursed the soil, that is when toiling, laboring, the sweat that we are sweating today came about. The enjoyment they had in the Garden of Eden, just moving about and enjoying themselves, everything changed. Man became insecure with nature. Like we find it today. Even our nature is not in favor of us. We hear of earthquakes everywhere, landslides, floods. We are not friends to nature anymore. Shame developed. When Adam ate the fruit, when Eve gave the fruit to Adam and Adam ate the fruit, they gained knowledge. Once they gained knowledge, the first thing is that they realized they were naked, and the first thing is they hid their private parts. They started hiding themselves because they became ashamed of each other. Now, another thing that happened is the body and the spirit no longer correlated. The spirit, the body is saying something else and the spirit is saying something else. There is no agreement between the flesh and the spirit. There became a disunity. And because of the disunity between the flesh and the spirit, man has become lustful. The disunity has led to lust, and lust has led to other things like a man wanting to have more than one wife, which is not the original plan of God concerning marriage, because God originally created one man to live and meet his wife, and the two become one inseparable couple. But today, because the flesh is controlling the spirit and the flesh, they no longer move together. We see how adultery has entered marriages. There is fornication and polygamy,
mistresses,
side chicks and side cocks here and there.
Thank you. That was really sound. Do you have something to add there, Mr. David? Or maybe you just take the next question.
Yes.
That has to do with what is the meaning of original nakedness?
When we talk about original nakedness, is very, very important insofar as God's plans for humanity was concerned. Nakedness represents the full acceptance of a man, the body of a human being. Full acceptance. It means that God fully accepted man. That is what nakedness represents here. And again, the body was unquestionable, the sign of the image of God. It expresses, the nakedness expresses the image and likeness of God that God created. That was another aspect here insofar as the nakedness was concerned. Again, the body was the expression of the person in the visible nature of man. Okay, that is what the nakedness here again represent. And when we talk about the ground that becomes cursed here, is because of this nakedness, that they realized that they were naked. That is when God now had to curse the ground, that man had to toil and had to sweat in order to have a living, of which this was not the case when they were naked in the garden. When they were just free, they had no aspect of pain, no toiling, no difficulty, no challenges. They were in the aspect of perfection like God, because God created man out of his own image and likeness. So they were closer
to
God. They were in the mind of God. But now, out of this sin, now they realized that they were naked.
Separate.
So they had now to be separating themselves from God. And that is the nature today. When man sin, the moment you sin, you start separating yourself from God, and you continue sinning. That is why it is always good when we attend masses, we keep ourselves closer to God, and that's how we also send away sins.
That is so true.
Okay, to add to what he has just said, when we look at nakedness from the beginning, when God created the world, Adam and Eve, they were naked, but their nakedness was in the likeness of God.
Yes.
Like he just said, they were naked, there was no pain, there was no toil. There were no difficulty.
They did not even realize that they were
didn't
naked.
even realize they were naked.
That's true.
But when they sinned, they discovered they were naked. And this nakedness now came to show them how futile they are. The nakedness. They are just naked. They
Emptiness.
Their life has no meaning.
That's
it
what they
is
thought.
empty. Because they have run away from God, they are empty. And that is to tell us that once we keep God away from us, our lives are empty. We are just as empty as...
For
That's
sure.
just what I wanted to add.
Yes, when you are in sin, you are separated from God.
That is it.
And when you are not in sin, you are in a state of holiness and natural original justice. So that is very sound. Madam Melvis, let me stay with you. How is marriage affected by the sin of Adam and Eve?
Okay. Thank you once more, ma'am. God originally created marriage because he saw that marriage was a good thing. It was not good for man to be alone. When he created Adam, he saw that it wasn't good for Adam to be alone and wanted Adam to have a companion. That is why he created Eve. The original purpose for God creating marriage was companionship, procreation. Eve was supposed to be a companion to Adam, and they were supposed to bring forth children and multiply the world. Now, after the fall of man, after the original sin, that companionship departed from them because they started feeling ashamed of each other. They started scaring away, staying away from each other also. And then the companionship, the company that is supposed to be among couples is no longer there. That is why even today we see so many marriages where we have a husband, we have a wife, but the two of them hardly sit together like a couple to discuss. They hardly sit together as a family, even at table, to share a common meal. The original companionship that was the reason for creation has disappeared among couples today. Today, we find couples not wanting to have children. There are so many people who do not even want to have children today. They go in for contraceptives, they go in for abortions because they do not want to have children. And by so doing, they are departing from God's original reason for bringing man and woman together.
Okay. Mr. David, do you have something to add there?
Even today, Mom, it's very common to see people who, a woman will just grow up and decide, or let me say a man will decide to refuse his manhood and start adopting feminine qualities. When you see people like this, the Nigerian, they have the Bobrisky and all that, they run away from their masculinity and they take up a feminine character until they want to become women. You start wondering how they are going to get married and how they fulfill God's desire, God's purpose for creating man and woman. So that's what I think the sin has really affected marriage because God's purpose for creating marriage is no longer met.
It's no longer met with our modern trends. Yes. Do you think the same?
Yes. So when we look at the God purpose for marriage, plans for marriage, it has affected marriage today because when we look at when man realized that man was naked, he started bringing the aspect of lust here, and lust here now has started bringing in many aspects of that we find today in our marriages, like the polygamy that we have talked about here. We have also talk about things like divorce that are setting in because of this aspect of loss. This is how marriage is being affected by the first sin committed by our father and mother Adam and Eve. It has brought about the aspect of contraceptives. Many people today, we decide to take some injections and pills that are affecting us, even killing us, but yet we still persist in them, of which that is not the original purpose of God's plan for man and woman. The plan here that God had was to procreate, to give birth to children and fill the earth and to take care of these children. That is why now we see many people don't even care. You see a child crying on the roadside, you don't care about the child, you just pass away as if nothing is happening, because that plan. We don't believe in the plan again that God had for marriage in the world.
Okay, that's very good. So maybe we look at it this way. This aspect you have spoken about lust, and there is some other thing which I read, concupiscence. I don't know whether you people saw it in the text.
Yes.
What does it have to tell us in this context? These two words.
This word concupiscence, there is no difference between it and adultery. What this is, the concupiscence is what we call today cow-stay.
Okay.
You just meet a man and a woman, they meet on the way, they fall in love with each other, and they decide to start cohabiting. You go and you meet the girl, the man, and you people start staying together and start having children. That was not God's plan of how marriage should be. We are Africans, we have traditions, we have cultures, we are Christians. If you want to get married, if you want to live with somebody and come together and start doing what God asks us to do, we should do it the right way. And all this is as a result of lust. Because man has sinned, man no longer, what the flesh desires is not even what the spirit wants. You just start lusting, you take somebody's child and you start living. Those are all the consequences of sin in marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And the children that they bear, they don't even care, because even the society has a derogatory name that they call those children. They call children out of wedlock. Some call them bastards. Those are all terms that are not good for us to allow our children to have those kind of adjectives attached to them.
They go with stigma.
Yes.
Yeah. Those terms go with stigma.
So if man does not go back to the original plan that God has for marriage, it will be difficult for families today, because families today are facing enormous challenges in the society.
Mm-hmm.
So it is better that, so the sin that our forefathers committed, Adam and Eve committed, our first fathers committed, is seriously affecting marriage in the different aspects that we have enumerated. So it is better for man to go back to the original purpose of God's plan for marriage. That is when we will have a better society, a better family. Because if we don't go back, we will continue disintegrating our families, our societies, and that's how God's plan will not be realized, no matter how far we pray, if we don't go back to the plan that God has for marriage.
And going back to the plan that God has for marriage is by making sure that we prepare ourselves so well, prepare our children when they aspire to get married, by letting them go through the marriage training course, which is in this book that we are using here, the Marriage Preparation Guide. It can be done formally in church, or maybe you even children should start abreasting themselves with it, as we are doing now. The essence of this program is to let people know that it is very important and necessary for couples to be prepared, or for a child to understand what the union of marriage is all about. Preparing to get married is very, very important. And that is why we are bringing this knowledge through this media for the whole public to know that when children want to come together as husband and wives, there are certain things they should know. When they get this knowledge far in advance, they will now be able to accept themselves the way they are and live happily and do just the right things. These wrong things that we are naming here, concubines, lust, adultery, polygamy, and all these things, divorce, separation. Those things are coming up so often because people are really ignorant about the union they want to create. So we are here craving on the public to understand this message and make use of it. Couples that want to get married can, by this medium, learn from these lessons and understand what God wants for our marriages, which are the foundations of our families. Thank you very much. Let me still come to you, Madam Melvis. Yes. This sin of Adam, there is something, they committed a sin. but it looks like we have contracted the sin because we are the descendants of Adam and Eve. Yes. So how does it, I don't know, what is the implication of it to us? Adam and Eve, they committed a sin, which is this fall. Why should we suffer from it? Or how has it impacted on our generation?
Okay, Mom. Adam's sin became the sin of everyone. Even the Bible says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Even children that are born now are born original sinners. Reason why we have baptism, to cleanse us from the original sin.
Mm-hmm.
In Romans 5 verse 12, it is said, therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way death came to all people because all sinned. That was God's nature. God could get angry and decree a thing that will follow you and your generations. That is exactly what happened. But as compassionate as he is, he's a compassionate God. He decided to free us from this original sin by sending his child, his own beloved son, to come back. So just like sin entered the world through one man, Adam, so too freedom came through one man, his son, who came to free us from our original sin. We, with Catholics, we believe in baptism that cleanses us from the original sin of our forefathers.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Mr. Nanji.
Yes, this sin we contract this sin. We are not the ones who committed this original sin.
Yes.
So we should understand this very, very important. We did not commit original sin. It is a contracted sin.
Yes.
So Adam and Eve committed this sin, but we are the seeds of Adam and Eve. So because we we are the seed of Adam and Eve, we form that unity, that bond as descendants of Adam and Eve. That is why we are contracting this sin from Adam and Eve. So that is why God, when we take baptism, we can wash us away from this original sin. And because now man now is viable to sin, evil, you know good and you know evil, you can now commit sin. You can decide to commit sin or do good. So, but the sin that we have Adam and Eve committed, we are the seeds of Adam and Eve, and we form that unity, that bond with Adam and Eve. We are the descendants of Adam and Eve. That is why the sin concerns us today. That's why the Catholic Church is baptizing infants in order to wash them from this original sin. It is very, very important.
Thank you very much, dear panelists. On the screen, there is a number through which you televiewers can reach us in the studio with your contributions. So we await your contributions, and we'll read them out to everybody. Thank you very much. I think at this point in time, we are going to take a musical break to calm down our breath and come later on with more information on this topic, the fall. Musical break.
make your home in the praises of Israel. In you our fathers put their trust. They trusted and you rescued them. Why have you forsaken me? They called to you for help, and they were saved. They never trusted you in vain. Yet here am I, no more one than man, scorn of mankind, jest of the abuse. All who feature at me, they toss their heads and snare. Why have you forsaken me? He relied on the Lord, let the Lord save him. If the man is his friend, let him rescue him. I can count every one of my bones, and there they glare at me, gloating. They divided my garments among them, and cast lots for my clothing. Save me from the lion's mouth, my poor soul from the wild bull. Why have you forsaken me? My soul will live for him, my children will save him. Men who proclaim the Lord to generations to come. You who fear the Lord praise him, entire race of Jacob glorify him, entire race of Israel revere him. His righteousness will people yet unborn, all these he has done. Why have you forsaken me?
Thank you. You are all welcome back to this second session of this edition of Marriage in God's Plan. And I have with me in the studio Mr. David Nanji Nasari and Mrs. Melvis Nasari, all from St. Therese of the Child Jesus Parish in Mekongi. You are all welcome back to the studio. We continue with our sessions. We have all explored this fall, the original sin, which was committed by Adam and Eve, and now our generation is suffering. I think that if we look at most of our families, we see us battling with evils and life struggles. Is it coming from this sin? Everything that we all know, that marriages are not a bed of roses. We struggle with things evil, and the normal life that is so difficult. Is it because of this original sin? Let us situate it in our marriage institutions.
Yes, of course. This aspect of original sin, all the challenges that we face today in our society and in our family, our marriages today, got their origin from the original fall of man. Because when we look at today, what are the challenges that families are facing today? Families are facing the aspect of divorce, separation, adultery, and all the like, fornication, and all whatnot that you can name here. These are all the challenges that we are facing today. Children are becoming so heady. Children don't want to obey their parents. They don't want to study. All these are challenges that we are facing today, and they emanate from the original sin of man. Because from there, when man fell, God cursed the earth. And this is a difficult challenge today in our society, that we face these numerous difficulties. And it is obvious that if we don't go back to the original plan of God, we cannot handle this situation. because God is our only source of hope. It's our only source of sustenance. That if we don't go back to Him to meet up with the original plan that He had for us, we will not be able to solve these our different challenges that we are facing in our families. Because you see, today somebody will get married, and after maybe 1 month, 2 months, they decide to separate or divorce. Somebody will get married to a woman that he says that the woman is the most beautiful woman on earth. The man is the most handsome man on earth. But after again, you see the man going out to look for another woman again. It means that the woman again is side chick. It means the woman again is not that beautiful like he thought before. All these are because of the original sin, and the only way that we can solve such a situation is going back to the original plan that God has for man, which is for procreation and to cater for our children and to control all nature that God put in the disposal of man during creation.
Thank you. Madam Melvis.
Yes, to add to it, God created man and woman because He wanted them to procreate, to bring children and educate the children. But today, a couple will have children, they don't bring up the children in the right way. They don't take the children to church to make sure that they start growing up with the fear of the Lord in them. They don't discipline their children, and that is why we have so many delinquent youths today, and the society is actually falling apart. There is so much drama in our society today. We see young boys consuming drugs. You see them getting into homosexuality. We see them doing terrible things, stabbing their teachers in school, and everything is just falling apart because we are derailing from God's plan of us parents bringing up the children, educating our children in the right way. Couples are falling apart because of disunity. Disunities came as a result of the first sin. When they realized they had sinned, they started hiding themselves from each other.
Yes.
And that is how they have been hiding so many other things. Secrets have started coming into marriages. They keep secrets. Finances are no longer transparent. And you see, so many things do no longer go the way they are supposed to go, and the end result is divorce. And it is not God's plan for for a couple to come together and then divorce again, because God originally created marriage that a man and a woman will be together till death does them part.
That's it.
So it is very, very important for us to go back to the original plan of
marriage.
If we don't go back to the original plan of marriage, then the human race is failing. Because how on earth can you explain the aspect that today man is getting married to a fellow man. A woman is getting married to a fellow woman? Is that the original plan that God created man and woman? No, God created man, and He looked at it that man will live in solitude, and so He needed a companion. He created woman, Eve, to accompany him. And so then now, how on earth can you explain the fact that a man is getting married to another man, a woman getting married to another woman? It means we are derailing ourselves from the original plan of God. And if we don't go back, then we continue facing these challenges.
Today it is difficult. People think that it is difficult for marriage to go on smoothly. It is not that difficult. If you really have if you know the purpose for which God created marriage, you know why you got marriage, and you are working towards it. The other partner is also working towards having a successful marriage. The marriage is going to be a successful one. The problem today in our society is selfishness. Yes, there is so much selfishness in marriage. Everybody, you think about, what do I benefit if I do this? What do I benefit if I do this? The man has 50,000 francs, spends 25,000 francs out there drinking alcohol with his friends. He doesn't care how the wife feels. The wife goes about, takes his money, buys his clothes, buys her dresses. She doesn't care whether the man is able to cater for the home or not alone. Selfishness. There is disunity, and all this is because of the disunity that came as a result of the original sin. But I just want to encourage those who are getting married and couples to know that if they actually set a goal, and the both of them have an ultimate goal to make their marriage work, they follow God's plan for marriage. They are going to have a fruitful marriage. They are going to enjoy their marriage, and they will live together peacefully and happily till death will do them part.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Having said all of this, we have actually named a lot of sins that comes out of this fall of Adam and Eve. Can we just enumerate them one by one and say their defects in the marriage institution?
Yes, when we will look at the different sins that come as a result of the first sin that was committed by Adam and Eve. Here we talk our aspect like divorce. Today in our society, divorce is that legal separation of a man and a woman. That is, people who were first of all legally married, they decide now to separate and divide everything that they had. That is what we call divorce. And this is one of the sins that have set in today in our society as a result of the fall of man. Remember when Adam and Eve realized that they were naked, they decided to go their separate ways. They were trying to hide from each other. That is when the separation aspect here started. And now we, in our society today, divorce has set in most of our families. And now most of us are not even looking the effect of this divorce on the children that we have brought. And God commanded us to fill the earth with children, to take care of them, educating them, bringing them up in the right way. But now we are divorcing, forgetting about these children that we have brought on earth. And God will hold us responsible if these children don't become something reasonable or become a nuisance in the society. God will hold us responsible because He gave us the command, the duty to cater for these children. So divorce is one of the sins that have come in as a result of the aspect of the fall of man, that is Adam and Eve.
Okay, to continue enumerating the sins, there is refusal to the marriage debt, because we don't know that it is a debt we owe God. We are supposed to get married. As a grown-up woman, you are supposed to get married. Don't grow up and say, I will not get married, and you start doing other things. I will go and adopt a child. I will go and do artificial IVF. I don't want to have anything to do with a man. It is God's plan for us to get married. So we owe God that debt of getting married.
Let me come in there. Women at times say that we all have observed that some women are not married, not because they actually did not want to pay this debt.
There are some women who are maybe decided to become
it is not a
married
decision,
to Christ.
Mr. Nanji. Some women, I sincerely know that they are not married because nobody came to marry them.
It is true what you have said, that they don't get married because nobody came to marry them. Or maybe those who came to marry them were people they thought would not have been the right people for marriage. That one is a different situation. Here we are talking about people who really grow up, women who grow up and decide by themselves that I am not going to get married.
Okay.
Not that they are of the religious.
Okay.
They decide that I am not going to get married. Men decide that I am not going to get married. That is why they get into lesbianism. They get into homosexuality, because they don't see the need for them to unite with
and you should not stay as a woman or a man and you don't get married and you think that it is just normal. No, most of the time some of us don't get married too. It is because maybe our character scares away people. So there, if your character scares away people from getting married to you, there you know that God will hold you responsible because you did not portray a good character that will attract people coming to get married to you, either as a man or a woman. So these are some of the things. But if you portray a good character in the society, that people are even saying that no, this is a woman, this is somebody that can get married to anybody, and at the end of the day don't get married, that is not your problem. God Himself knows why you have not gotten married. But if you start portraying character that are not unacceptable in the society and at the end of the day don't get married, God will hold you responsible.
The question Mom asked is a very pertinent question, because today in our society we realize that there are so many grown-ups.
Yes.
Ladies at 35, 40 who are unable to find a partner, just like men.
Yes.
I have come across
It's both
so
ways.
many men of age 40 and above who find it difficult having a wife, and you really see the desire in them wanting
To have a wife.
To have a wife. What then is the cause? There are women there looking for husbands. There are husbands there there are men there out there looking for wives. But why don't they come together and get married? There is a question.
That is it.
Yes.
Some women out there, because they have made money, they have become popular. They put pride. I cannot get married to a man who is not like this, who is
Of
not like
this
this,
class.
who is not of this class, who is not of this social status, who is not this financially stable. The other day we were talking about a girl who says she doesn't want to get married to A, she wants to get married to B because A has only 5 million in his account. And we were wondering, if you have 5 million in your account, for a layman like me, it means you are a thief. To have 5 million sitting in your account. But you see, that is look at the standards that she has set for herself. A man should have above 5 million in his account before she gets married to him. If at the end of the day she doesn't get married, who is to blame?
Herself.
She has to blame herself. She caused it.
When we were growing up, we were taught about something, because there was a word, an ideal man, an ideal woman. And I remember my spiritual director told us that there is nothing like an ideal man or an ideal woman. And that when you grow up, people will come your way that you will try to see how you people can live together. And there is something that is being said nowadays over and over, that is the prime aspect of marriage: love. I think in the Bible it is said that the woman submits to a man. But now there is this thing that we say love. I have to love him before I get married to him. You understand? So there are some emotions that a woman is expecting to flow in her when the man stands
In front of her.
for her to accept the man and get married to the man, without knowing that the Bible is saying that we should submit and get married to the man that stands in front of us. And then whatever that comes out of that marriage will help you to love the person. I don't really know which one now is.
That is the reason why, as family life animators, we try to educate on our youths on making the choice of their partners. We have had seminars on that topic, making the right choice of a partner. We had a seminar in my 16 with the youths 2 years ago, where we educated them on making choices. This is just to prevent all these youths that grow and then they don't get married. And some of them at that age don't get married because they have lost all the opportunities that came
Their way.
Because they were carried out
so
by
we
their
have to be very
youthfulness.
wise and vigilant to see who is standing on our way or who is coming along us for us to get along. So I think that it is this point. I like the way we have elaborated on it. And I think that it will benefit so many people out there. Let's continue to list out there.
Okay,
Yes.
we have unlawful separation, divorce, adultery, artificial birth control.
That is one of the important centers, artificial birth control here. God created man, and the purpose that he created man here was for procreation and companionship of marriage. But today we have decided to go into artificial birth control, which is going against the will of God. It is better that we as family life animators and couples to ensure that we don't transfer this knowledge of artificial birth control. We can do it through natural family planning methods. When we do this, we are in the line of God's purpose in marriage. But when we take this artificial birth control, we are going against the plan that God has for marriage. So it's one of the sins that emanate also as a result of the original fall of man.
Yeah. Abortion.
No, let's go back to this adultery. How does it affect the marriage as a fallout of this fall? This adultery.
Yes, it is because when man sinned first, when Adam and Eve disobeyed God, they became naked. They realized that they were naked. And because of this nakedness, they became ashamed of each other. So they started going to separate that attachment that they had at first, going closer to each other, going closer to God. They started separating away from themselves. And this aspect of shame brought the idea of lust. Now they start looking at each other with admiration. That is lust here. That is how this aspect of divorce, adultery came about. Because now with this aspect of lust, you see a man or a woman can just see maybe a woman, maybe we are talking the case of a man, you see a woman just passing and you start imagining things because of this aspect that we have gained knowledge of the nakedness of man and woman. But if we do not have this knowledge of nakedness, you will not start imagining just seeing a man passing or a woman passing. You start imagining certain things like having sexual intercourse with the woman or having sexual intercourse with the man. It is because of this nakedness that brought this aspect of
because
lust
we became
today.
aware of our nakedness and we started seeing the different ways that we appear.
Yes.
And you start admiring something that you were not supposed to admire.
Because you have started seeing with other eyes. Let me say with other eyes.
Yes.
You have gotten knowledge about
it. Very, very common without it doesn't disturb them. That is a sin. I don't know.
No, today, Mom, it is common. People say it is a man's nature to have more than one wife. I don't know whether that is how God created man. That is the nature God gave man, that you must have 2, 3. Before it means that you go on social media, you see there that a man who has one beautiful wife and one cute side chick is a perfect man.
Yeah.
A man who has one beautiful wife and one cute side chick is a perfect man. And that is how the men go about thinking that if you have your wife and you do not commit adultery, you do not cheat on her, you don't go after other women, it means you are not man enough. And some women have been brainwashed to believe that there is no man who doesn't cheat. So we have also been made to accept it that way, and the men now are comfortable in the sin. They commit it freely, not knowing that what they are doing is a sin. Just want to remind the men and the women out there who leave their partners at home and they go around cheating, thinking that because you have not been caught, the fact that your partner has not caught you does not mean that what you are doing is right. What you are doing is wrong. You are going away from the purpose of marriage.
So I want to also remind our televiewers that this aspect of lust, which also emanates, which is causing the adultery that we are talking today, is because our dressing today in our society is very, very poor today. You see people dressing in the society, going out in the street, what you are supposed to wear in and sit maybe in your room, in your bedroom, you take it out in the street. So these are some of the aspects that have been causing this aspect of lust today, causing many people to sin today in the society. But if we decide today that we start dressing, encouraging our children, first of all, in the family, us as a parent, we dress decently, our children will dress decently, and this aspect of lust will be something of the past. But if we keep on wearing dresses that exposes all our human nature out there, then because this is what the center of what started separating Adam and Eve, that they were no longer closer because they realized their nakedness. So we should learn to dress decently. And so too, because you will not dress indecent and you will think that your child in the house will dress decent. No, because they are under us, and what we do, they will copy from us. And remember, God will still hold us responsible if these children are not brought up in the right way.
Yes, Mr. Nanji, let me still dwell on that aspect of dressing. I am not like supporting the women or whoever or even the men for dressing wrongly. But I want to really ask whether a Christian person should have lust in the face of an indecent dressing.
I don't really think a Christian person should have lust in the face of an indecent person. Let us go back to the days of our grandfathers, our great-grandparents. How did they dress? You could even see a young girl with a good, sizable breast walking naked, and the men did not feel anything.
Nobody was aware of anything.
Lusted after them. They wore their traditional regalias. Maybe they tie just the, how do they call this, made from fiber.
Danshiki.
They just tie it. They tie something very small at the breast, and they are walking very beautiful, natural, and clean. But then, men never lusted after them. So what I want to say is, it is our mindset.
Yes.
If we start conditioning our mindset,
something
to
is
fear
wrong now.
God,
Yes.
we start conditioning our mindsets to know that this thing is wrong, this one is wrong, this one is wrong. I'm telling you that we are going to reduce the rate of adultery in our society, and make up more perfect marriages.
Thank you, madam.
You have used the right word, mindset.
Yes. Yes. I think that there was something wrong. Something incomplete, which we have completed now in this discussion. Yes, because the fact that somebody stands in front of you naked, why should it cause you to sin? I have been very troubled about this question. Yes, and I think that we are encouraging that each and everyone should dress well. But if you happen to be in a place where somebody is not well dressed, don't let that sin cause you to sin. Yes, don't let it cause you to sin. Because that drive is, for me, is no longer a good spirit. It's an evil drive in somebody that person is committing a wrong, and then you have just fallen into a wrong because somebody committed a wrong.
That is the flesh and the spirit
no
longer working together.
It's not working together.
The flesh is desiring it.
Yes.
But the spirit.
So I think we are not through with those.
Yes, we still have
abortion, sterility, sterilization.
Sterilization. It really baffles me how a woman will decide to make herself sterile.
Yes, when you take periods, it's kind of sterility also all the
because you don't want to have children.
By preventing procreation.
We have cohabitation that we had earlier talked about, a man and a woman cohabiting together.
Yeah.
And we have polygamy, which is really not what God intended. One man and woman would live together till death do them part. I really wonder if God wanted polygamy, he would have created 2 wives for Adam.
No, but they say our African society is a polygamous society. So I want us to talk about this one very well.
No, our African society, God, we did not say that we have to get married to more than one wife. That is not the original purpose of God for marriage. The original purpose of marriage is one man, one woman. Many people will say that this is a tradition. Christianity is just a tradition that has been brought to us by the Westerners. No,
not only that, they will say even in the Bible we had the Abraham,
David, and all the
many wives.
God married to many wives. But you can still get married to many wives. But at the end of the day, you keep on sinning, because there are many people who get married to more than one wife and they are still in serious sins. So, but God, the purpose of God in marriage was one man, one woman. That's why he said that the man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two become one. He did not say the three become one or the four become one. No,
and that is
God did not say that in the Bible.
That's why I said at the beginning that if he really wanted polygamy, he would have created 2 wives for Adam. He created one. But because we sinned, we got lost, and we started lusting after women. Our forefathers, our biblical forefathers, started taking many wives and having many children. Good, they were procreating. But when God really saw that it was not going, when Christ came, Christ rejected polygamy. That what God has put together, let no man put asunder. And if we are Christians, we are supposed to reject polygamy and go for
monogamy. That is
How
it.
was the family of Saint Joseph? Saint Joseph was a responsible man who got married to a woman, Mary, and they lived with their child Jesus, a happy family. That is a model that every other family today can copy. If you cannot copy that kind of a family, then because there is no way you will tell me that in a polygamous home you will live in harmony, or you say that even monogamous families, they have problems too, so there is no problem getting married. But I tell you, it is not God's plan. God's plan is one man, one woman.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That sounds so well. So it's taking us now to another level. We are doing this because we are aspiring to train people who wants to get married. How important is this lesson, the fall, to couples who want to get married?
First of all, I would want to make couples who are preparing or thinking of getting married tomorrow that the fall of Adam has brought so many challenges today in the world. In our society today, we have aspects like divorce, we have aspects like lust, we have aspects like separation, cohabitation, and all the like. And if today you are getting married and you don't decide to keep away all these things, and the only way for us to keep these different challenges that we will face in our families, the different way that we can, only way that we can keep them is going closer to God. Because if you go away from God, that is when you will see a sin as if it is something good, something to admire. That is why somebody who does not go to church or who does not go for mass will say that polygamy or adultery, fornication is no problem to that person. But when you go to church and they preach the word of God to you, you will sit in church, and when you go back and you see somebody coming to subdue you to that kind of aspect, maybe to divorce your wife or to commit adultery, you will not accept it. So it is very, very important. This aspect of the fall is very, very important, has a lot of significance in our marriage today, because there are certain challenges that have come into the society that if we don't stand firm in our families will break down, and that is not the plan of God for our families.
Okay.
God's plan is that of unity, that of love, that of holiness in the family, to bring up our children in the fear of the Lord. And so doing, we will live till our ripe old age, where we accomplish the purpose that God has for us in this life.
Thank you, Mr. Nanji. Thank you very much. I think we are done with our program for today. And I want to thank Kindness, who is at the technical board. I thank Madam Joyce Mbong, who is the supervisor. We are humbled by our proprietor, His Lordship Michael Bibi. And we thank you all televiewers for always being there. We are here at your service. Keep on watching Divine Mercy Radio and television, for we are here sharing the light of hope. Thank you all. Stay tuned.